Hello out there, this is Wakeangel2K1 bringing you another Sonic Boom toy review. I didn't think that they'd come up with anything new for a while, but here we are. It's Tails' plane. This is not the plane that appeared in the first episode of the cartoon, so we can only assume that it's something from early in the video game. The video game which I have not had a chance to play past the opening level yet. I really gotta get to that! So, here is the plane. It's a simple affair. It's a monoplane, it's yellow, it has Tails' iconic symbol there on the fin. And it has a very basic paint job, though the bottom is just screw holes central. Look at all those screw holes. The landing gear undercarriage is made in gray plastic, the rest of the plane is yellow, the cabin is brown. And, there's a lot of detail sculpted into that cockpit. See, you got a steering wheel, you got all the gauges, you got implied buttons. Would have been nice to see some of these gauges picked out in paint, but I guess at the budget that the toy was made at, it's just really not in the cards. And the toy comes with quite a few gimmicks. Yes, this thing has a bunch of little gimmicks in there. We're going to take a look at the gimmicks first. First we're going to switch the power on. Alright, so the power is on. So I'm going to first push this button here on the tail. It activates sounds, lights, and it makes the propeller spin. Okay. The second gimmick comes when you pick it up. Let's turn it up. There we go. See? You hear that? See? I'm not pushing any buttons. It is motion sensitive and will make airplane noises just from being swooshed through the air. So that's pretty cool. Nice noise making gimmick. Really is like a plane toy. And it has firing missiles. These two protuberances here. That's distracting. Push that. Shoots a missile. Shoots two missiles. And those are good missiles. They go quite a distance. I mean, I was holding the plane a good 1.5 feet away from the desk, and it still hit the backdrop. Let's see. I'm gonna hold it up past the camera. So I'm shooting from behind the camera. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I bet these things could go like 3 or 4 feet if you let them. Aim away from your face, children. So on the face of it, it's actually a pretty decent plane toy. There's nothing too wrong with it. The only thing I would complain about is that it's not the Tornado. But I guess that can't really be helped because Tomy got the license to make toys from Sonic Boom. And since the Tornado doesn't appear in Sonic Boom, they can't make the Tornado. Which kind of sucks. I guess we're still having to wait for Jazzwares for that. Now, of course, the plane has to come with a little Tails figure. Here we go. And this Tails figure is completely and utterly identical to the previous release of the Tails figure. Yep. Nothing different here. Same stance, same facial expression. I noticed that this one, the first Tails figure I bought had a little bit of a looseness in his left shoulder, which this one does not have. So, okay, that's good. Yeah, but besides that, there is zero difference. So aside from quality control, that is all you're going to get. I guess it's okay. I mean, you'd rather have an extra Tails figure than having no Tails figure, right? Although, since that Tails figure is only available in a 2-pack, I'm wondering, never mind. I guess since he comes packaged with Sonic, you could theoretically buy Sonic with the launching wheel for the Burnbot set, and then buy this plane, you have Tails, and then you don't need to buy the 2-pack. If that would have been great if they were all released at the same time, but the stacked release means that anyone trying to collect the whole thing is going to end up with doubles. Oh well. Perhaps if I get enough spare Tails figures, I'll have another contest. Now here's the big flaw of the set. You see how I kind of plop Tails down into the cockpit? That's it. Tails just kind of stands in the seat. Like, and he looks tiny in there. I have tried. First of all, his tails push him to the far right, so he's not going to be centered. Second of all, he has absolutely no way to grip the steering wheel. His arms articulation just isn't enough to get his hands in the right place. And if you cut his tails off, you might be able to do that, but you know, this is really where the tail should have been articulated. Perhaps if they were on a ball joint, so they could have been moved out of the way, so that you could like fold him up along his back and allow him to grip the steering wheel. But even then, I've noticed that the steering wheel is kind of too wide, and when I put Tails' hands onto it, they kind of friction themselves out because they don't really fit. And yeah, he's very loose in there. There's nothing that's holding him in place. He just falls out. So it's like they took the 3D model of this plane from the video game and produced it the way it looked in the video game without taking into account that the figures that they're supposed to interact with aren't designed to sit in there. So, yeah, ill-fitting figures. Here's a Jazzwares Tails figure. He has better articulation, so let's see if I can get him to fit in the plane. Okay, let's fold up his knees. I have not attempted this before. Taking advantage of those elbow bends. Just gotta get his hands over to the steering column. Come on. I got one hand on. Oh. Okay, if I can just get his thumb underneath that. You know what? There. He's in the plane. He's sitting in the plane. His tails are going over the back so that they're out of the way. And he has a good enough grip on that steering wheel that he doesn't fall out for at least a couple seconds. My apologies for that jump cut there. He fell out. But off camera, I positioned him a little better. And because, 1, the tails can rotate out of the way, 2, the knees can bend, and 3, the elbows can bend, he is able to grip the steering wheel with both of his hands. As you can see, he's holding it. And he fits very well into the cockpit. This plane actually seems to be made more for the Jazzwares Sonic figures than for the Sonic Boom toys. That's kind of sad, wouldn't you agree? But yeah, the plane actually seats Tails really well. I mean, he's in there. He's not going to fall out. Alright, so there is one last gimmick of this toy. There is an ejector seat launch in the back. Now the thing is, Tails' tails kind of get in the way, so there really isn't room for the second rider. Anyway, again, there's no real way for... Okay, I'm sorry. Tails, you're gonna have to get out of the passenger seat. I know it took some doing to get you in there, but yeah. Yeah, seriously. This thing seats Tails incredibly well. I just don't understand why it doesn't seat the Boom Tails very well. Alright, so... First of all, you see that back seat there? That does not look like a very comfortable chair. It actually looks kind of like a piece of S&M gear. Like, you know, one of those horses. You know, it's a Japanese medieval torture horse or something. It does not look pleasant. It's very... No one wants to sit on a point like that. And frankly, the figures don't sit very well on it. I mean, they're just kind of balanced there. If you try to lift up the plane and play with it like this, he's just going to fall out. But, you know, it's the ejector seat gimmick. So we just gently balance Sonic onto the ejector seat. And then we push the eject button, which is on the tail. Woo! Yeah, if they had... I would have sacrificed that stupid ejector seat gimmick, and you know what I would have put in? You know what would have been an improvement over that stupid ejector seat? Oh, and it's not even... It's not... Okay. Okay. There's a seat. Here's a trigger button, just in case you were wondering. Okay, look what happens when I push the button. Okay? Okay? Yeah, that's all that happens. It kind of angles itself to the right a little bit. That's why the launch gimmick is so weak. You know what? But yeah, better than that ejector seat. You know what would have been better? You know what would have been a total improvement on this toy that would have made it great? If they had put a freaking peg hole. Like the Eggman car has. You see that? That is a peg hole that the character's foot can go in to ensure that they're nice and stable in there. You know, so that they won't fall out. That would have been a perfect thing to put inside of the cockpit. Even if you would have just had the figures standing in there, it would be better than just having them flop around. Okay, so I guess the only thing left to do now is to compare it to some other planes, right? So here is Tails' plane. That's literally what it's called, Tails' plane. Next to my custom Tornado. See, remember? This one has that gimmick, and mine also has that gimmick. Actually, my plane, if I were to swap out the batteries again, my plane would be capable of making airplane noises. So I literally made a toy that does the same thing as this. Alright, I didn't build it from scratch. I repurposed a Barney Stormin from the Pixar Cars toy line. But still, I made, using a pre-existing biplane toy, something that's more faithful and iconic to the franchise than this bathtub with wings. Also, yes, I have made models of the Tornado that have a seat carved out so you can put an actual Jazzwares figure in there, but this one just has a permanently mounted Tails in the seat. I preferred it that way. Just my little thing. And let's compare it to something that actually got a retail release. The Tornado Racer from, you know, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racer. Well, it's bigger than the Tornado Racer. Although, amazingly, they're almost the same color. They have a very similar design aesthetic with the 3 wheels on the bottom. And although there's more detail in the Tornado Racer's cockpit, like it has a silver panel, a colored steering wheel, a painted chair. You know, there's more detail work in this thing. Well, this thing, it's bigger, but that's about it. So, yeah, I mean, this one makes noises, it has lights, it has missiles that fire. I guess, and it has an ejector seat gimmick. I guess since it has all those extra bits and bobs, that explains why they took some money out of the detail and paint budget to make room for all those gimmicks. And they're nice gimmicks. It's a pretty cool plane toy in its own right. By the way, yes, the wheels can roll. They're even like rubber wheels. They're not plastic wheels, they're rubber. That's kind of cool. So, as a plane, it's an okay toy. As an accessory for your Sonic Boom figures, it sucks. It cannot seat the Sonic Boom figures convincingly, and even if you do get them in there, they'll just fall out as soon as you pick the plane up. And it doesn't work with the Sonic Boom toys at all, which is terrible. That's what it's made for. And by the way, that ejector seat thing, Sonic is the only one that I was able to get the thing to work for. Knuckles' tail gets in the way, so he can't sit properly. And Amy and Styx can't get their legs up high enough because their skirts are in the way, so they can't sit back there either. Sonic is the only one that can sit in that ejector seat, and even then it's a precarious balance. So, the one saving grace, I guess, is that it actually seats the Jazzwares Tails figure fine. If you want to put your Jazzwares Tails figure in something other than the Tornado Racer, there you go. But as a Sonic Boom accessory, it's not good. I would understand if you wanted to skip this toy. I mean, like I said, it has a lot of nifty gimmicks. I think these are actually really bright lights. You can use them as a flashlight. I looked directly into these lights while I was playing with the toy one time, and it left dazzling spots in my vision for a few minutes. So, yeah, it has really bright lights. It makes cool sounds, shoots missiles, that there we go. The motion control gimmick, that's cool. I mean, it's a cool plane. It's a terrible sonic boom accessory, but it's a cool plane. I mean, just give the plane by itself to a little kid. Maybe don't give them the missiles because they'll shoot their eyes out. Seriously, when I was during that jump cut, I took this thing to the kitchen. This thing fired clear across my kitchen. It's a pretty powerful spring-loaded gimmick. But yeah, the plane by itself, cool plane, nice plane. Does not seat the figures, so it's just a plane by itself. A plane with no pilot. I really wish that this toy could have been better. Yeah, you can probably skip it. It's not a terrible toy in its own right, but it's skippable. It's perfectly skippable. The thing cost $35. It costs pretty much the same as that BurnBot set, but at least the BurnBot set had pegs so you could use it as a display for your figure collection. It came with the BurnBot, which had that cool spring-loaded exploding feature, and Sonic can actually fit inside of the gimmick. Like seriously, you just kind of stand Tails in there, and then he'll only stay there so long as it's on display. And then when you're looking at it from the front, you're going to wonder why he's off to the side so much. Plus, he looks hilariously diminutive in the thing. At least when Tails is sitting in it, it's just not great. Okay, this is Wakeangel2K1 signing off.